Under the dappled sunlight spilling through the shallow waters of tropical reefs, the ocean floor shimmers with a deceptive illusion of absolute stillness. Crabs scuttle delicately over coral rubble, while tiny fish glide in perfectly synchronized waves over clearings of pristine sand. A fleeting shadow might cause a brief startle among the more nervous inhabitants of the reef, but as it fades, so does the underlying tension. Nothing seems out of place. And yet hidden beneath an overhang, no wider than a coconut shell, a miracle of adaptation lies waiting, watching, calculating every move. The octopus is there, though no human eye could spot it. Its body, masterfully folded into a narrow crevice, is not the real reason for its disappearance. What makes it completely invisible is its astonishing skin, a living canvas of dynamic and pulsating camouflage. Tiny muscles in its dermal layer manipulate pigmented cells, the chromatophores, which pulse with a symphony of color. Small sacs of red, brown, and yellow expand or contract in an instant, reshaping its appearance to perfectly match the rock, algae, or sand. Even more impressively beneath those chromatophores are iridophores and leucophore cells that reflect and scatter light like microscopic mirrors, giving the animal not only color but also an astonishing texture and sheen. Its flesh can become rough like coral or as smooth as a time-polished stone. In the blink of an eye, it is no longer an octopus. It is an indistinguishable fragment of the reef. This mastery of disguise is not solely for defense. It is, in fact, the octopus's primary weapon. As a predator, it relies not on speed, brute strength, or pack behavior, but on infinite patience and pinpoint precision. A goby fish darts by. The octopus moves imperceptibly, a single arm extending just enough to shift position without stirring a single grain of sediment. Its bulbous head shrinks slightly, pressing even closer to the rock, and its skin pulses with a pattern that mimics the dancing shadows of nearby seagrass meadows. And it waits. Few animals in the vast marine world possess such a broad range of biological advantages. Lacking bones, the octopus can compress its body to slip through spaces as narrow as a coin. Its arms are lined with suckers containing independent neural circuits capable of grasping, feeling, and even chemically tasting whatever they touch. It doesn't just feel its prey, it knows it through touch. And yet, most remarkably, this complex behavior occurs without centralized control. The octopus's brain is large. Some species have up to 500 million neurons, but more than half of those neurons are distributed throughout its limbs. Each arm operates as an autonomous scout, capable of problem-solving and decision-making independently of the central brain. This decentralized nervous system is part of what makes the octopus as unpredictable as it is fascinating. In laboratory settings, they have opened child-proof jars, escaped from sealed aquariums, and even learned to recognize individual humans. But in the wild, such intelligence is used not for play, but to survive in a world teeming with larger, faster, and hungrier predators. When the strike comes, it is over in a matter of seconds. The octopus lunges its arms, exploding outward like a living net of muscle and suction, and completely envelops its prey. The fish is engulfed before it can even register the danger. Under the canopy of arms, the octopus injects venom through its beak-like mouth, paralyzing the fish and beginning the digestion process before the meal is even fully swallowed. Then, as quickly as it sprang to life, the predator vanishes into nothingness. It releases a small cloud of ink, not out of panic, but as a strategic visual smokescreen, and glides back into the safety of the reef. Within moments, it has changed color again. The reef looks exactly as it did a few minutes ago, but now one more fish is missing and an octopus is slightly fuller. The ink itself deserves a closer look. Composed of melanin and mucus, it is more than just a visual screen. It chemically confuses predators by interfering with their keen sense of smell. Some octopuses even eject decoys, thicker blobs of ink that mimic the size and shape of their body to fool attackers and escape in the opposite direction. Unlike the panicked squirts of other creatures, the octopus's ink release is strategic and perfectly timed. It is part of a carefully orchestrated repertoire of distraction. But despite its incredible skill as a hunter, the octopus lives under constant threat. Sharks, groupers, moray eels, and even other octopuses are all potential enemies. Its soft, boneless body is a huge disadvantage in a world that respects armor and speed. That is why camouflage is not just a strategy. It is an absolute necessity for survival. Even mating is a dangerous act. Male octopuses approach females with extreme caution, often from a distance, using a specialized arm, the hectocotylus, to deliver sperm. If the female is not interested, or if she is hungry, the male can become a post-coital snack. In some species, the male sacrifices his arm and flees for his life. In others, he dies shortly after the encounter, his body left adrift on the sea floor. The female, meanwhile, obsessively guards her eggs for going food and eventually dying when they hatch. It is a life lived intensely but tragically briefly. Most octopuses live less than 2 years. Their short lifespan makes their intelligence even more baffling. Why invest so much neural complexity in a creature with no opportunity for generational learning? One theory suggests that their complex environment, the reefs, caves, and currents, demands quick, adaptable thinking. Another is that intelligence was selected not for its longevity, but for its ability to adapt on the fly. For the octopus, being smart isn't about culture, it's about staying alive in a world that never gives you a second chance. In colder waters, species like the giant Pacific octopus grow to enormous sizes with an arm span of over 29.5 feet and live a little longer. But even they follow the same tragic arc: solitary, cunning, resourceful, and then they are gone. No songs are sung, no group mourns the fallen, But on every reef and rocky outcrop, another juvenile learns to change its skin, test its arms, and vanish into the landscape. Camouflage might be the first thing we see, but what defines the octopus is the intelligence hiding behind it. In a world of armored fish, high-speed predators, and pack hunters, this soft, silent, shape-shifting invertebrate has carved out an evolutionary niche all its own. Not through strength, not through speed, but through the mastery of deception, creativity, and absolute control of its environment. It doesn't need teeth or claws to win the battle. It only needs to become what the enemy cannot see. Beneath the churning surface of the North Atlantic, where the water darkens to a cold, muted green and the sunlight begins to fracture and fade, a strange arena unfolds on the sea floor. It is not a vibrant reef, nor a coral city full of color and chaos, but a grim battlefield composed of rocks, kelp, sand, and shipwreck debris, where movement is slow, tension is thick, and survival depends not on swiftness, but on armor. This is the territory of the lobster. Among the crevices and rocks, something stirs. Its advance is not fast, but deliberate and methodical. A heavy, slow, yet firmly controlled crawl. A deep red form emerges, its legs moving rhythmically over the gravel, long antennae sweeping back and forth like blind scouts. This is Homerus americanus, the American lobster. And while its presence may not elicit the cinematic awe of a shark or an orca, make no mistake, this creature is a veteran of a very different kind of war. Its body is a veritable walking fortress. The lobster's exoskeleton is made of chitin, reinforced with calcium carbonate, a biological armor that both protects and restricts. Every movement is mechanical, articulated, deliberate. Muscles contract not from within bones, but against them because the bones are on the outside. Lobsters live inside their armor, and when they grow, they must break free of it in an act of extreme vulnerability. This process, called molting, is one of the most dangerous moments in a lobster's life. The old shell splits down the back, and the lobster slowly pulls itself out of its former carapace. Claws, legs, antennae, eyes, everything emerges tender and soft, like a raw sculpture still being molded. For several hours, sometimes days, the new shell remains flexible, making the lobster easy prey for anyone bold enough to challenge it. Many do not survive molting, but those that do re-enter the world slightly larger, stronger, and often with new appendages. Lobsters can regenerate legs and claws over successive molts. Its most iconic weapon, the claw, is not just a tool. They are two separate biological machines fused at the shoulder. One is the crusher, thick, broad, built for brute force. The other is the cutter or pincer, more elegant, serrated, designed for slicing or manipulating. These claws are asymmetrical, and which one becomes the crusher is not determined by genetics, but by experience. The claw, used more in early development, assumes the denser crushing role. In combat, these claws become instruments of dominance. Lobsters are territorial, and when two rivals meet, they engage in ritualized fights resembling armored wrestling matches more than explosive skirmishes. They size each other up, wave their antennae posture, and then clash claw to claw, twisting, pushing, fighting for supremacy. Sometimes these fights escalate. Sometimes one yields, and sometimes a claw is lost, left twitching on the sea floor as the victor claims its cave. What is surprising is how much of this battle is mediated not through sight, but chemical communication. Lobsters have poor vision, but their antennae and legs are hypersensitive to chemical trails. Essentially, they smell with their legs. They follow each other's scent trails, detect pheromones, and even gauge a rival's size and recent victories based on molecules floating invisibly in the water. In a sense, lobsters read the battlefield long before they see it. And the battlefield is dense and full of hidden drama. Crabs scurry over the shell-covered gravel. Eels coil in tubular shadows. And sand-dwelling predators stalk anything careless enough to expose soft flesh. Lobsters navigate this terrain not as hunters of the swift, but as methodical marauders. They move slowly, probing with their claws, probing under rocks, catching weakened mollusks, urchins, or fish. Their jaws, once food is secured, crush the meal between calcified plates behind the mouth. Although often portrayed as scavengers, lobsters are opportunistic predators, especially at night. Their activity peaks in the dark when visibility is low and their chemical senses dominate. Juveniles must move quickly and carefully, dodging both predators and larger lobsters, which are not above cannibalism. In these dark waters, size is everything and shelter is a precious commodity. Lobsters are not silent creatures either. When threatened or irritated, they can produce low-frequency sounds by rubbing parts of their carapace together. Some species have specialized ridges that act almost like musical instruments, not to sing but to warn of danger. Every aspect of their physiology is designed for resilience assertion and unwavering defense. As the lobster ages, it settles into its role as territorial monarch. Large males, recognizable by their massive crusher claws and elongated carapaces, can rule a network of burrows, defending the best shelters, attracting mates, and driving off competitors. Unlike many animals, lobsters do not sharply decline with age. In fact, some scientists believe they may exhibit negligible senescence, meaning they do not visibly age in the traditional sense. Their telomerase activity, a cellular enzyme linked to longevity, remains high throughout their lives. If not for disease, predation, or fishing, lobsters could live for decades, even an entire century. But nature rarely allows such fantasies. Parasites, bacteria, and human traps are constant threats. Lobsters have adapted to many of them. Their hard shells resist infection, and they can even consume molted shells to regain lost calcium. Even so, survival is never guaranteed. And in recent years, warming waters, ocean acidification, and overfishing have begun to alter their habitats alarmingly. Temperature changes affect molting cycles. Juvenile development rates shift. Susceptibility to disease increases. To the casual observer, the lobster is just a dinner plate icon served steamed with butter, a symbol of luxury or tradition. But beneath that shell lies a creature shaped by struggle, evolution, and relentless strategy. It is not beautiful in the way of a manta ray or a dolphin. It does not leap, it does not glide, it does not dazzle with its grace. It crawls. It grips. It endures. And yet, in the silent calculus of the sea floor, where strength must be worn, not hidden, where survival is not about fleeing, but withstanding, the lobster is a perfect machine. Armored, ancient, methodical, a bully in the shadows, a survivor with iron jaws. The sun hangs high over the tropics, casting spears of light that slice through the water's surface into dancing golden beams. Below, the world turns a deep blue, a vast open cathedral where silence reigns in bursts, broken only by the faint crackle of shrimp or the distant muted clicks of something lurking just out of sight. The open ocean may seem serene from the surface, but just beneath the hunt is already underway. A school of mullet zigzags nervously near the surface, their silvery flanks flashing like coins in the sun. Then the water pulses, not with movement, but with a palpable intent. From the distance, the pod arrives not with splashing or chaos, but with astonishing precision. Bottlenose dolphins glide majestically into view. Their streamlined bodies like living torpedoes and their fins tracing perfect arcs through the blue. There is no panic, no disorder, only flawless structure. The movement is coordinated as if choreographed, a formation honed by millions of years of survival and evolutionary success. Each member plays a crucial role. One circles wide, another dives deep, and somewhere in the midst of it all, the clicks begin to echo. These are not random sounds, they are biological sonar pulses. Short bursts of high-frequency noise fired into the infinite blue. The returning echoes paint a three-dimensional map of the world in real time. Dolphins don't just see with sound, they perceive shape, density, speed, and direction. Echolocation gives them an edge no other predator in the open ocean can match. It is like having eyes that don't rely on light ones, but can detect the flutter of a fish's gill or the hollow air in a crab's shell buried under the sand. The clicks, pulses, and whistles are modulated with extraordinary control. As they bounce off the school of mullet, each returning echo is processed in the dolphin's auditory cortex at lightning speed. In human terms, their echolocation is roughly akin to having underwater MRI vision, but faster, continuous, and dynamic. The melon, that bulbous organ on the dolphin's forehead, is the acoustic lens. It focuses and projects beams of sound forward, much like a speaker cone or an underwater flashlight made of sound. Behind the jaw, specialized fat channels receive the incoming echoes which travel to the inner ear and then directly to the brain. What results is not a vague auditory impression, but a precise spatial understanding of everything within its reach. And the brain processing that information is in itself remarkable. Dolphins possess one of the highest brain-to-body ratios in the animal kingdom, just behind humans. Their neocortex, the region responsible for complex thought problem-solving and social reasoning, is elaborately folded, suggesting more surface area and greater processing power. Their brains aren't just big, they are intricately wired for intelligence. But this intelligence is not spent alone. It is forged in pods, complex social groups that can include up to several dozen individuals. In these communities, dolphins form alliances, remember old rivals, coordinate hunts, and even pass down behavioral traditions. Some pods specialize in corralling fish into tight bait balls. Others drive prey toward the shore in a maneuver that borders on strategy rather than instinct. Young dolphins learn by watching. Behaviors like sponging, where dolphins place sponges on their snouts to forage without injuring themselves on the seafloor, are passed from mother to calf. It is the closest thing to cultural inheritance in the marine world. The pod now moves in perfect synchrony. One dolphin circles wide, corralling the fish toward the surface. Another speeds below, herding from the depths. The rest spread out in a crescent, forming a living net. Then the sound pulses accelerate, sharper, tighter bursts aimed like a laser at the center of the fish mass. The mullet feel the sonic pressure, completely disoriented. The echoes don't just reveal, they also confuse. Some researchers believe that high-intensity sonar bursts can temporarily stun prey, disrupting their swim bladders or overwhelming their sensory systems. Amid the chaos, a dolphin lunges forward like a missile, jaws wide, teeth flashing, and snatches a fish mid-turn. It doesn't stop to chew. The prey is swallowed in a single gulp, and the dolphin immediately returns to formation, ready to repeat the maneuver. Above the frenzy, seabirds spiral and dive, taking advantage of the dolphin's precision ambushes to catch fish forced to the surface. Below, sharks prowl at the edge of the action, waiting for an opportunity. But they dare not charge. Dolphins, despite their charisma, are not to be underestimated. In tight pods, they will confront and even kill sharks using their speed and snouts as battering rams. Several documented cases show dolphins ganging up to ram a shark's gills or belly areas too vulnerable to ignore. As the hunt slows and the last fish scatter, the dolphins regroup. A few leap from the water, spinning in the air. Whether it is communication, coordination, or simply pure exuberance, no one can say for sure. but the scene is alive with intelligence. Not the cold logic of instinct, but the fluid brilliance of creatures that think, plan, and adapt to their world. In calmer waters, dolphins are equally capable of subtlety. In murky estuaries, they slow their clicks to reduce detection. In seagrass meadows, they glide silently through narrow channels, inspecting with sonar rather than sight. And in captivity, though controversial studies have shown them capable of complex memory retrieval, mirror self-recognition, and even abstract reasoning. They are not perfect. Dolphins can be brutal. Males can harass or isolate females, and infanticide has been documented in wild pods. Their playful reputation often hides a complex spectrum of behaviors, including aggression, deception, and strategy. But this only deepens the portrait of a predator that is not merely instinctive, but cognitive, reactive, and situationally aware. The ocean offers many apex hunters, but few wield their power with the finesse and intelligence of dolphins. They don't stalk from the shadows like reef ambushes or overwhelm like shark frenzies. They use information sound positioning memory and flawless social coordination. Their weapon is not just echolocation, it is organization. Sound allows them to see in the dark, communicate over long distances, and hunt in perfect unison. It is as if the ocean itself becomes their lens, a three-dimensional grid of target and terrain. In the end, as the pod moves off toward deeper waters, it leaves behind no chaos, only an eerie calm. The mullet are gone. The ripples fade, and the sound, once dense with clicks and whistles, returns to silence. But in that silence lies the echo of something extraordinary. The presence of a predator that relies not on brute force, but on acoustic mastery, neurological complexity, and a social network as tight as any wolf pack. In the world of dolphins, intelligence is not just an advantage. It is the ultimate weapon, and its precision is heard long before it is seen. Beneath the turquoise veil of the warm, shallow tropical waters, coral formations rise like skeletal fortresses from the ocean floor. Parrotfish grind algae-covered rocks, damselfish weave among branching corals, and cleaner wrasses dart in and out of tangled anemone grottos. At first glance, the reef appears to be a chaotic marketplace of movement, color, and competition. But amid the bustle, something drifts with an almost theatrical and ominous calm. A fan of striped fins opens like a blooming feather duster. Its movement is slow, deliberate, more like a curtain swaying in the breeze than a stalking hunter. Yet that is exactly what it is. The lionfish does not stalk, it does not charge, it does not chase. It hovers eerily still, but always inching closer to its target. Its body is painted with alternating white and reddish-brown stripes, a clear warning that most reef fish do not recognize. Its elongated pectoral fins spread out like open wings, subtly herding prey toward its hidden mouth. The spines along its dorsal crest, 13 in total, bristle with venom, but they are not for catching prey. They are armor, and in most parts of the world, they are enough to grant this fish almost total immunity from being hunted. Few predators, if any, dare test those sharp quills. Native to the Indo-Pacific, the lionfish evolved in a realm of intense competition and equally well-armed predators. There, its role is balanced its presence part of a much older and finely tuned ecosystem. But in the Atlantic, particularly throughout the Caribbean and along the southeastern coast of the United States, it plays a very different role, that of a conqueror. Accidentally introduced in the 1980s perhaps, through the aquarium trade or a single tank broken by a storm, the lionfish quickly found itself in a paradise where none of the reef's inhabitants recognized its warning signs. None avoided its slow, methodical approach, and nothing hunted it. What makes the lionfish particularly lethal is not aggression or size, but strategy. It hunts primarily at dawn and dusk, moving with calculated grace through the crevices and rubble of the reef. Juvenile fish unfamiliar with this slow menace rarely flee. They often freeze in front of those elegant fins, mistaking the lionfish for something harmless or even ornamental. That is when it strikes with a burst of suction so fast it creates a pressure vacuum. The prey is inhaled whole, disappearing into the lionfish's gaping mouth in less than 1/10 of a second. Its stomach is elastic and expandable, allowing it to gorge on prey up to half its body length. Studies of invasive lionfish in the Caribbean have revealed stomachs filled with dozens of fish, some of them vital herbivores that control algae growth on the coral. The loss of these small species may not register visually right away, but their absence ripples through the ecosystem. As algae overruns the coral and biodiversity declines, the structural integrity of the reef begins to collapse. It is an ecological erosion from the inside out, all orchestrated by a hovering predator that doesn't even look threatening. And the damage spreads. Female lionfish can release up to 30,000 eggs every few days. Their larvae are tiny, transparent, and drift effortlessly on ocean currents, making containment nearly impossible. Within decades, the lionfish expanded from the shores of Florida to the Bahamas, Cuba, Mexico, and even parts of South America. In many areas, they outnumber native predators by orders of magnitude. Venom is not its attack tool, it is a defense that further cements its dominance. The spines do not deliver a fatal toxin, but they inject a complex cocktail that causes intense pain swelling, and in rare cases systemic effects like nausea or breathing difficulty. This venom is stored in grooves along the spines and is only activated when pressure is applied, usually by a clumsy predator or an unlucky diver. Once stung, few creatures, and certainly no fish, attempt a second encounter. The lionfish invasion of Atlantic reefs is a textbook case of what happens when a balanced predator is removed from its natural context. Here it faces no pressure from above and has infinite opportunity below. Traditional reef predators like groupers and moray eels largely ignore it. Even sharks, which might bite out of curiosity, do not seem to regularly attack lionfish, possibly deterred by the unfamiliar taste or the painful spines. In its native waters, lionfish are occasionally preyed upon by larger reef fish and cephalopods. But those predators evolved alongside it, learning to navigate or tolerate its defenses. In the Atlantic, this learning has not yet occurred, and evolution does not move fast enough to catch up with the lionfish's breeding cycles. The result is a growing imbalance where an animal's reproductive advantage and passive hunting strategy outpace the reef's ability to respond. And yet, despite all its ecological impact, the lionfish remains a solitary hunter. It does not form packs or coordinate attacks. It does not chase or defend territory. It simply hovers, eats, and multiplies, operating more like a virus than a traditional apex predator. Divers have described the eerie sensation of coming upon an overgrown reef and finding it dead silent, save for the slow flutter of lionfish fins and the occasional twitch of a shrimp. The native fish, the darting wrasses, the vigilant gobies are gone. In an effort to slow the invasion, some coastal communities have launched lionfish derbies, organized hunts where divers spear or net the invaders by the hundreds. The meat, once properly prepared, is edible and even considered delicately flavored. But collecting them is difficult and labor-intensive. They prefer depths below the typical diving range and spread faster than humans can follow. Proposals for automated traps and training targeted predators, like encouraging native sharks to eat lionfish, have had limited success so far. Meanwhile, the lionfish continues its silent conquest. It does not roar, it does not thrash, it does not slash. It glides wrapped in lethal beauty and laced with venom. Its elegance is its disguise. Its slowness is its power. And its survival, unchecked, unchallenged, is a reminder that the most dangerous invader is not always the fastest or the fiercest. Sometimes it is the one no one sees coming until the balance is already lost. In the coral realms of the Atlantic, the lionfish is not a guest. It is a ruler without rivals. Its strategy of spines has no counterattack, and every slow sweep of its fins marks another notch in an ongoing ecological coup, beautiful, deadly, silent, and for now unstoppable. In the dim and quiet realm of the ocean floor, where movement is often subtle and color fades into muted grays and browns, life proceeds at a slower, more deliberate pace. It is not the dazzling chaos of a coral reef, nor the brilliant swirl of the pelagic blue. It is a carpet of sediment, shell fragments, and algae. Currents roll gently across the bottom, disturbing the fine silt and exposing the tracks of creatures that live not by chasing, but by filtering. And among them, lying motionless on the seabed, like a discarded sponge, is one of the ocean's strangest and most resilient survivors, the sea cucumber. It is easy to overlook at first. Its tubular body blends effortlessly with the terrain, and its slow, undulating movement across the sand barely registers unless looked at directly. It has no sharp claws, no armored shell, no rapid escape route. Its soft body seems to offer little protection. Its pace lacks urgency, and its presence is unassuming. But this bizarre creature is much more than just a passive bottom dweller. It is a master of chemical warfare, a recycler of the deep, and when threatened, a living paradox willing to sacrifice parts of its own internal anatomy in exchange for survival. The sea cucumber is a member of the echinoderm family, related to starfish and sea urchins, but lacks the rigid symmetry that defines its relatives. Instead, it moves as a slow undulation. Hydraulic tube feet under its skin push it along like a living conveyor belt. Its mouth, ringed with tentacle-like feeding arms, constantly scoops sand into its body, filtering out microscopic organic material and detritus. In doing so, the sea cucumber performs a vital function. It recycles nutrients, reoxygenates the sediments, and helps maintain the chemical balance of the seabed. In many benthic ecosystems, it is one of the primary engineers of the substrate, invisible but absolutely essential. But when disturbed, when a fish lunges or a crab gets too close, the sea cucumber reveals its deepest, most grotesque arsenal. In a sudden convulsion of muscular contractions, it squeezes its body with surprising force and expels a mass of sticky white filaments from its rear end. These threads, known as Cuvierian tubules, are not only elastic, but are also coated in a glue-like secretion that entangles, blinds, and frustrates attackers. The effect is immediate and dramatic. Fish caught in the tangle thrash and twist, trying to break free, often abandoning the hunt entirely. The sea cucumber, meanwhile, slowly begins to regenerate the lost tubules, a process that can take several weeks. In some species, the defense goes even further. If the threat persists, or if the tubules fail, the sea cucumber may resort to an even more extreme act, evisceration. It literally expels its internal organs, jettisoning part of its respiratory system, gonads, and digestive tract in a shocking display of biological surrender. The organs, coated in defensive toxins and delivered in a cloud of shock and distraction, confound predators into hesitation. In that moment of confusion, the sea cucumber slowly crawls away, leaving behind a macabre sacrifice. While this may seem like suicidal behavior, the sea cucumber is astonishingly resilient. It begins regenerating its organs almost immediately. Within a few weeks, the lost systems are restored as if nothing had happened. The secret to this macabre tactic lies in its biology. The sea cucumber's body wall is not structured like that of vertebrates. It contains mutable collagenous tissue that can rapidly change stiffness under neural control. This allows it to liquefy parts of its body to squeeze into tight crevices or soften for evisceration. It is also highly regenerative, a trait shared with some starfish and axolotls, but rarely with such stark drama. Chemical defenses play a crucial role in the sea cucumber's survival. Many species release toxins known as holothurins, saponin-based compounds that can stun or repel fish and other invertebrates. These toxins are potent enough that in aquariums, a stressed sea cucumber can release enough holothurin to kill all of its nearby tank mates. In the wild, however, this secretion is more targeted, seeping into the water only when tissues are ruptured or predators attack directly. Despite its apparent passivity, the sea cucumber's combination of deterrence, resilience, and ecological function gives it a unique place in marine ecosystems. Its feeding behavior, for example, significantly affects the sediment it lives in. By processing sand and detritus, it reduces excess organic material that would otherwise decompose and deplete oxygen. In coral reef lagoons and seagrass meadows, healthy populations of sea cucumbers help suppress algal blooms and stabilize the pH balance of the substrate, creating a healthier environment for fish corals and countless invertebrates. But the sea cucumber is not immune to the outside world. In many regions, particularly in Southeast Asia and the Pacific, it has become a target of overfishing, not for its ecological value, but for its role in human cuisine and traditional medicine. Known in culinary terms as bêche de mer or trepang, the dried processed body wall of certain species is considered a delicacy and is believed in some cultures to offer various health benefits. As a result, wild populations in some areas have declined drastically. Their removal not only affects predators, but disrupts the entire benthic cycle of nutrient renewal and sediment balance. Climate change adds another layer of complexity. Rising temperatures and ocean acidification can interfere with reproduction, larval development, and regeneration processes. The loss of sea cucumbers doesn't just mean fewer spiny lumps on the sea floor. It can mean nutrient overload, hypoxic zones, and the collapse of microhabitats for juvenile reef species. And yet, for all its unorthodox traits, the bizarre gut spilling, the sticky nets, the toxic compounds, the sea cucumber endures not by power, but by patience. It does not chase. It does not fight in the traditional sense. It alters the battlefield, poisons the weapon, and retreats while it rebuilds itself. Every inch of its existence is tied to adaptation. Where most animals protect their insides at all costs, the sea cucumber weaponizes them. Where others harden and defend, it softens and escapes. In the quiet world of the ocean floor, that slow-moving tube is more than a curiosity. It is a strategist, a recycler, a chemist, and in its own twisted way, a survivor of exceptional cunning. In a realm that rewards aggression and speed, the sea cucumber reminds us that survival often belongs to the weirdest among us, to those who change the rules rather than follow them. The waters are calm and shallow, a mosaic of seagrass meadows and coral rubble stretching beneath the dappled light of the late afternoon sun. Here in the transition zone between the reef and the open lagoon, the environment seems modest, a quiet stage for slow herbivores and cautious scavengers. But something moves in the shallows that defies the ordinary rules of visibility and behavior. It does not move like a fish, nor like any creature with a single shape. It shifts, flows, fades, and returns not just through movement, but by rewriting its own appearance with every passing second. The cuttlefish has arrived. Its body glides with the fluidity of a drifting leaf. Propelled by undulating fins that flutter on both sides of its mantle, it steers gently with short bursts from its siphon, like a silent jet thruster. But it is not its movement that catches the eye. It is the skin alive with shifting light and impossible colors. In the blink of an eye, the cuttlefish transforms. One moment it displays the mottled texture of coral rock with false shadows and depth. The next, it pulses with waves of contrast, dark bands rippling from head to tail like electrical signals made visible. What unfolds on its skin is not just camouflage, it is communication. It is deception. It is the control of perception itself. Beneath the skin of the cuttlefish lies a marvel of evolutionary engineering. 3 layers of specialized cells work in perfect harmony to create this living illusion. On the surface are the chromatophores' pigment-filled sacs, controlled by muscles that expand or contract to reveal browns, reds, and yellows. Beneath them, iridophores reflect light, producing iridescent blues and greens. Deeper still, leucophores scatter ambient light, acting as a natural white base layer. With this sophisticated combination, the cuttlefish can replicate the color texture and even the polarization of light. All controlled by a nervous system so finely tuned that individual chromatophores can be adjusted one by one. Unlike many animals that react visually to their environment, cuttlefish respond with calculated intent. They do not just blend into the background, they study it. Their eyes, strange and W-shaped, are among the most advanced in the animal kingdom. Although they probably cannot see color the same way humans do, they detect polarization, the direction of light waves, which reveals contrasts invisible to most predators and prey. This gives them a visual advantage in murky waters and allows them to perceive textures, contours, and depth with unparalleled precision. Even their depth perception surpasses that of most underwater animals. Despite lacking binocular overlap in their vision, cuttlefish use a process called stereopsis, moving their heads and comparing frames over time to build 3-dimensional maps. It is a kind of biological radar, passive, constant, and profoundly accurate. As the cuttlefish glides closer to a group of juvenile shrimp nestled in the seagrass meadow, its skin pattern changes once again. The bright pulses fade into a sand-speckled gray. Its arms open slightly, separating into a crown around its beak, each with tiny suckers that taste and grip all at once. Then something remarkable begins. A wave of light travels across its mantle. Not random, but rhythmic, hypnotic. It is believed that this strobing pattern, often called the passing cloud, disorients prey. In moments the shrimp freeze, the cuttlefish strikes. Two feeding tentacles shoot out from beneath its arms with astonishing speed, snatching the prey before it can move. The tentacles retract, and the food is brought to the beak, crushed and consumed in an instant. But the deception does not end with camouflage or hunting tactics. In mating, the illusions of the cuttlefish become even more complex. Males often compete for females, displaying bold zebra-stripe patterns to assert their dominance. However, in this competitive environment, size is everything. The larger males guard the females, while the smaller ones are usually excluded. Some of those smaller males, however, have learned to cheat the system. They cloak themselves in the skin pattern of a female, suppress their dominant stripes, and sneak past the alpha male. Once close to the female, they briefly revert to male courtship mate and then slip away before being discovered. It is pure biological theater. The cuttlefish does not just pretend, it acts with complete control over its wardrobe. This kind of behavioral plasticity, the ability to modify not only appearance but also behavior based on context, is rare in the invertebrate world. And yet the cuttlefish, like its cousin the octopus, shows signs of curiosity, problem solving, and even short-term memory. In laboratory settings, they have been trained to navigate mazes, solve puzzles, and remember symbols associated with food. All this despite a lifespan that rarely exceeds 2 years. The brain driving this animal is wrapped around its esophagus in a ring, compact yet dense. Neurons extend directly into the skin, allowing almost instantaneous control over the chromatophores. It is not just a brain thinking about color, it is a brain painted directly onto the skin. In the ecosystem, the cuttlefish occupies a strange space. It is not the apex predator, but it is not easy prey either. Its defenses are visual, behavioral, and chemical. When threatened, it can expel a cloud of ink, mixed with mucus, a decoy that confuses predators both visually and chemically, giving the real animal time to vanish into the shifting terrain. The ink does not merely obscure, it contains compounds that dull a predator's olfactory senses, disorienting them further. Despite these defenses, cuttlefish are heavily preyed upon by larger fish, dolphins, and even sharks. Their intelligence does not guarantee safety. It simply increases the odds of evasion, manipulation, and survival in a world where few things stay still for long. And when their time comes, as it does for most, it comes quickly. After mating and laying eggs, clusters of black grape-like sacs attached to rock or coral, most cuttlefish weaken and die. Their young hatch into a world they will never see, armed only with instinct, a skin loaded with possibilities, and a mind built for imitation. In a world obsessed with brute force, the cuttlefish tells a different story. It wins not by chasing, but by convincing, not by overwhelming, but by deceiving. Its body is both a weapon and a lie. A brilliant, shifting thinking veil that rewrites the rules of survival with every pulse of color. And in the quiet corners of the ocean, where shadows play tricks, And nothing is, as it seems, that may be the most dangerous strategy of all. The tropical waters remain quiet beneath the morning sun, their surface glassy and deceptive in its calm. Below the sea is as clear as the air, revealing a complex underworld of coral spires, branching sea fans and shadows that writhe with the rise and fall of the current. Reef fish move with measured caution, zigzagging among overhangs and labyrinthine crevices in schools that sparkle like cut crystal. There is beauty here, certainly, but also a silent tension, because within these coral corridors, not all danger bares teeth or travels in open pursuit. A flash catches the eye, not fast, not violent, but unsettling in its silence. A banded form glides among the coral serpentine and undaunted. Its movement is deliberate, its head steady, its tongue flicking at intervals so fast they almost go unnoticed. It is a hydrophine, a true sea snake. And it is not hunting with force or fury. It is navigating, tasting the invisible chemical trails of fish that passed by moments before. And when it finds what it is looking for, it will not chase. It will strike once with surgical precision and wait for the venom to finish the job. Sea snakes are among the most venomous reptiles in existence, and Hydrophis belcheri in particular ranks near the top of that scale. Drop for drop, its venom is more toxic than that of most terrestrial snakes. And yet, despite all their biochemical power, these animals have an almost ghostly demeanor. Most are rarely aggressive, and bites to humans are infrequent even in areas where they are abundant. Unlike terrestrial vipers or cobras, sea snakes do not waste venom unless it is absolutely necessary. Their weapons are reserved for hunting, and their world is not designed for sudden ambushes or long pursuits. It is a space of floating stillness, vertical cover, and tight corners. The snake's long, compressed body, ribbon-like rather than round, is built not for speed, but for agility. It glides effortlessly among coral arms under overhangs and through sand channels where small fish and eels hide. Its tail is flattened like a paddle, providing propulsion with minimal movement. Its lungs extend along most of its body, allowing prolonged dives, sometimes of more than an hour without surfacing. And its skin can absorb oxygen directly from the seawater, supplementing its breathing as it slithers through the shallows. A juvenile eel peeks out from the base of a coral head. Unaware of the approaching danger, the snake freezes less than 3 feet away, perfectly aligned with the crevice. The tongue flicks once more. Then, with a sudden blistering lunge, it coils forward and strikes, injecting a neurotoxin so potent that escape is impossible. The eel convulses briefly and then goes still. The snake retreats, waiting. Its venom acts quickly, disrupting neural pathways, paralyzing muscles, and ultimately stopping respiration. The prey's struggle is brief, almost silent, and almost invisible to the rest of the reef. By the time the snake returns, the meal is lifeless, ready to be swallowed whole. It is a scene repeated countless times in the tropical lagoons of the Indo-Pacific, from the Great Barrier Reef to the shores of Indonesia, the Philippines, and Myanmar. More than 60 species of true sea snakes patrol these waters, adapted in subtle variations to depth, diet, and environment. Some live in the open ocean, feeding on fish that swim near the surface. Others specialize in soft-bottom habitats, rooting for gobies and blennies buried in the sediment. A few are nocturnal, their eyes adapted to the low light of dusk and dawn, their hunting guided more by taste than by sight. The elegance of their movement belies their evolutionary compromises. Unlike fish, sea snakes must breathe air, a legacy of their terrestrial ancestry. They surface regularly, ascending in slow arcs with nostrils situated high on their heads to break the waterline for only seconds. Some species can remain submerged for hours, aided not only by their large lung capacity, but by their skin's permeability to gases. In this way, they behave almost like marine mammals, dependent on oxygen yet profoundly aquatic in their behavior. Despite their venom and adaptability, sea snakes face few natural predators. Large sharks occasionally attack them. Some sea eagles specialize in snatching them from above, but their banded patterns, often in black and white or blue and yellow, serve as bold warnings to anyone considering the risk. These colors are not for camouflage, they are deterrents. Reminders written in nature's most recognizable script: touch me and suffer the consequences. Even so, the danger they pose to humans is more myth than reality. Southeast Asian fishermen often find sea snakes tangled in their nets. And while defensive bites do occur, they are rare. Most bites happen when the animal is handled or threatened, and even then venom may not be injected. Sea snakes are not aggressive by nature. They have no interest in confrontation unless provoked, but when they bite, the effects are swift and severe: paralysis, respiratory failure, and if left untreated, death. The irony is that a creature so lethal is so reluctant to use its gift. What allows sea snakes to spread so widely is their astonishing ability to ride currents between islands. The tidal flows that churn through coral passages and between reef flats become highways for dispersal. The snakes drift in these slow-motion rivers, navigating across miles of ocean between feeding grounds. Some species have even been found hundreds of miles from the nearest reef alone, in the blue coiled around drifting debris or swimming tirelessly toward new territory. Their lives are not tethered to any coral structure or coastline. They are maritime wanderers, explorers of lagoons, estuaries, and remote archipelagos. As climate change warms tropical waters and alters current patterns, the ranges of many sea snake species are shifting. Some are appearing further south or in deeper waters than previously recorded. Others are declining in areas where coral bleaching and sediment runoff have disrupted food webs. Despite their resilience, sea snakes remain closely connected to the health of the habitats they patrol. Without prey, without coral cover, even the most silent killer has nowhere to hide. And yet in many places, they remain a constant flickering through the water, with movements too subtle to notice until they are close. Their presence is not announced with splashes or growls, but with an undulation, a twitch, a glint of sunlight on a banded body weaving between coral towers. In the realm of reef predators, sea snakes do not rule through dominance or brute force. They slip through the shadows, kill with precision, and vanish before their work is even recognized. In the balance of the reef, they are both danger and elegance, proof that the ocean does not need size or speed to command respect. It only needs silence control and the kind of power that moves unseen until it is too late. In the dim green haze of the continental shelf far below the swell of breaking waves and out of reach of the crisp clarity of sunlight, the seafloor seems frozen in time. Sand dunes creep slowly across the bottom, shaped by deep ocean currents that never fully sleep. The wrecks of old ships, now colonized by corals, anemones, and decaying rust, lie scattered like forgotten skeletons. It is a world of low-light, slow change, and crawling life. Nothing moves quickly here. Yet everything is in perpetual motion. Out of the gloom, a shape appears, angular, spindly, and completely alien. It is not swimming or crawling in the typical sense, but assembling itself forward, one articulated leg at a time. Its pace is measured like something more accustomed to climbing scaffolding than walking on sand. It is a spider crab. One of the slowest, strangest, and most deliberate scavengers in the sea. And it is not alone. The Japanese spider crab is the largest arthropod on Earth, with a leg span of over 11.5 feet from claw tip to claw tip. But its smaller cousins can be found in oceans worldwide, from the coasts of North America to Europe and in the depths of the Pacific abyssal plains. Their bodies seem disproportionate, a rounded carapace, barely larger than a dinner plate, from which lanky legs extend outward like a Gothic chandelier. Their movements are not graceful, but precise, a choreography of caution and patience that allows them to cross almost any terrain, from shipwrecks to rocky outcrops, with equal ease. These crabs are not predators in the traditional sense. They are opportunists, scavengers of the highest order, with claws perfectly adapted for peeling, slicing, and stripping the sea of anything edible. On the rusted hull of a sunken vessel, a spider crab might look like a piece of rebar or a broken pipe until it moves. Then the illusion breaks and the thief goes to work. Pieces of rotting fish, dead starfish, mollusks, too weak to escape. Nothing goes to waste. The crab's sensory appendages move constantly, testing the water, sniffing for chemical clues of death or decay. It does not hunt by sight, it hunts by scent and time. What makes spider crabs especially effective is their natural camouflage. Their carapace is often encrusted with algae barnacles and small anemones, not by accident, but by design. Specialized hooked hairs on their carapace allow them to attach bits of seaweed or sponges covering their bodies with living armor. This disguise serves not only as cover against predators, but as a costume for the ambush lifestyle they sometimes employ, waiting motionless for hours before striking at a passing fish or shrimp. They are not aggressive, but they are persistent and they are incredibly durable. Their exoskeleton is a calcium carbonate fortress, thick and rigid, designed to withstand pressure and fend off attacks from octopuses, bottom-dwelling fish, and even other crabs. But with durability comes limitation. Like all crustaceans, spider crabs must molt to grow. It is a dangerous and vulnerable process. First, they absorb water to split their shell from within. Then, slowly and delicately, they pull out their bodies soft and defenseless for hours or even days until the new exoskeleton hardens. Many do not survive this transformation, but for those that do, the growth is dramatic. Some double their size with a single molt. And when the conditions are right, they gather en masse. Off the coasts of Australia and Japan during spring and early summer, spider crabs begin one of the marine world's strangest migrations. Thousands converge in shallow bays, piling on top of one another in dense rust-colored mounds. It is a scene more reminiscent of an insect swarm than a gathering of crustaceans. A slow-motion tide of armored legs, tangled claws, and silent confrontation. Scientists believe these migrations may serve multiple purposes: safety in group molting mating opportunities, or simply access to richer feeding grounds. But the effect is overwhelming. For a few days, entire seabeds disappear beneath a moving carpet of crabs. These congregations attract predators, of course. Rays sharks and octopuses follow the migration like pickpockets in a crowded market. But they also attract humans divers eager to witness the bizarre phenomenon firsthand. For the spider crabs, it is both a ritual and an immense risk. Many will not return to the depths. Despite their armored appearance, spider crabs are remarkably flexible in their diet. They consume everything from algae to carrion and small invertebrates. In this way, they play a crucial role in the ocean's nutrient cycle. They are the janitors of the seafloor, stripping the remains of other animals, cleaning the bed, and helping keep ecosystems balanced. Without them and other scavengers like them, dead matter would accumulate faster than it decomposes, leading to low oxygen zones and severe ecological imbalance. And yet, despite their ecological value, spider crabs are also increasingly under pressure. In some regions, they are harvested for food or bait, disrupting local populations. Pollution and warming oceans can interfere with their molting cycles, reproductive behaviors, and larval dispersal. And because they are slow-moving and long-lived, with some species taking up to a decade to reach full size, their populations are especially vulnerable to overexploitation. Still, they persist. Their young, tiny versions of the adults drift as plankton in the currents, settling only when they are large enough to anchor to the substrate. There they begin their long and deliberate transformation, molting, feeding, disguising themselves, and waiting. Always waiting. On a shipwreck at a depth of 164 feet, a group of spider crabs slowly deconstructs the hold of a decades-old freighter. Flakes of rust fall as claws gently snap over metal ribs. Nothing goes to waste. Nothing is rushed. They move like archivists, clearing away the past one fragment at a time. A fish carcass falls from above, perhaps dropped by a predator. It lands lightly between two crabs, and within seconds it begins to disappear methodically, shredded by multiple claws piece by piece. There is no glory in this task, no dramatic hunt, no pursuit by predators. But there is a profound, essential, and often invisible purpose. In the cold stillness of the seafloor, the spider crab does not conquer. It reclaims it, recycles it, endures. And beneath its slow march and alien design lies a lesson in persistence that sometimes the most effective strategy is not speed, nor strength, nor surprise. It is patience, silent efficiency, and the ability to turn the forgotten into fuel for the future. The tide is calm and the current barely moves, leaving the lagoon suspended in a deceptive stillness. Beams of sunlight penetrate the clear water, drawing long, undulating shadows over a mosaic of coral rubble sand channels and swaying seagrass meadows. Small reef fish flicker between crevices, every movement fast, cautious, and untraceable. At the edge of a sand clearing, resting just above the substrate, hovers a pufferfish. Round-eyed, slow-moving, unassuming. It is not flashy like a lionfish, nor agile like a wrasser. It seems harmless, almost clumsy. But this impression is exactly the illusion the fish needs to survive. The pufferfish lives in the uncomfortable middle zone of the food chain. It is not powerful enough to dominate, it is not fast enough to flee, it is not camouflaged enough to disappear. And yet it has survived for millions of years in some of the ocean's most dangerous neighborhoods. Its strategy is a high-stakes performance built on bluffing biology and the most potent neurotoxin ever carried by a vertebrate. Because when threatened, the pufferfish does not run, it transforms. A shadow passes overhead. A young reef shark patrolling the edges of the shallows. The pufferfish detects it, not just by sight, but through the pressure-sensitive lines running down its flanks, its lateral line system tuned to disturbances in the water. It does not bolt for a getaway because it cannot. It does not hide because there is no time. Instead, it takes a quick breath, not through lungs, but by swallowing water into its highly elastic stomach, and begins to inflate. The inflation is rapid, grotesque, and sudden. In seconds, the pufferfish more than doubles its size, becoming a ball of taut, stretched skin, surrounded by tiny spines protruding from its formerly smooth surface. The transformation changes everything. Not just its shape, but its posture speed and center of gravity. Where a second ago it was slow and small, it is now immobile yet huge and potentially dangerous. For a predator expecting a mouthful of soft-bodied prey, the result is confusion. The fish no longer fits in the mouth. The spines present a mechanical barrier. The shape is awkward to grip or swallow. And then there is the invisible threat. Lurking beneath that defensive exterior is tetrodotoxin, a substance so toxic that a single pufferfish contains enough to kill more than 24 adult humans. This neurotoxin is not produced by the fish itself, but by symbiotic bacteria residing in its organs, particularly the liver, ovaries, and skin. The fish stores it without harm, but any predator that dares to bite and swallow may never get a second chance. Tetrodotoxin acts swiftly and lethally by blocking sodium channels in nerves, halting communication between the brain and muscles, leading to paralysis and asphyxiation. There is no known antidote. Ironically, this terrifying toxicity is not a perfect deterrent. Many predators do not learn until it is too late. Some reef sharks and moray eels have been found dead with pufferfish lodged in their throats. Others, like tiger sharks, seem immune or simply too reckless to care. Even so, for most predators, a single bad encounter is more than enough. The pufferfish's bizarre performance becomes a memory imprinted by survival. But puffing up is not just a casual trick, it is physically demanding and risky. When inflated, the pufferfish loses mobility and control, often rolling with the current like an out-of-control balloon. If the threat persists, it may find itself defenseless, unable to navigate or escape. And inflation puts immense pressure on internal organs, especially the stomach and gill system. It is a short-term tactic, not a sustainable defense. Once the predator leaves, the pufferfish slowly contracts, expelling the swallowed water and returning to its usual clumsy glide, breathing heavily through gill slits that heave with relief. In quieter moments, the pufferfish falls back on its subtler talents. Though not as colorful as reef fish, nor as cryptic as octopuses, many pufferfish species employ mild forms of mimicry. Some display markings resembling eye spots or irregular outlines, similar to those of more dangerous animals like the porcupine fish. Others blend into the sandy bottom or position themselves under overhangs where only their eyes remain visible. Their diet consists of hard-shelled invertebrates, crabs, mollusks, sea urchins, which they crack open using beak-like teeth that never stop growing. These dental plates, fused into parrot-like bites, must be worn down constantly or risk overgrowth. To do this, the pufferfish must feed almost daily, crushing shells with impressive mechanical precision. Its peculiar biology does not stop at the skin or the toxin. Pufferfish also exhibit unusual social and reproductive behaviors. Males of certain species have been observed creating elaborate circular patterns in the sand, symmetrical ridges and valleys, resembling underwater crop circles to attract females. These structures have no direct function beyond signaling fitness and coordination, but they demonstrate a level of complexity rarely associated with such an odd-looking fish. And then there is the pufferfish's reputation among humans, a mix of fascination, fear, and culinary obsession. In Japan, the fish is known as fugu, a delicacy served in thin, translucent slices prepared only by licensed chefs trained to remove the toxic organs. Eating it is an act of trust, ritual, and risk. A single mistake in preparation can be fatal. And yet the allure endures, drawn perhaps by the very thing that makes the fish so captivating in the wild, the tension between danger and delicacy, between survival and spectacle. Not all pufferfish are deadly. Some freshwater species carry less toxin or none at all. But the inflation response remains nearly universal across the entire family. It is not just the venom that defines the pufferfish, it is the gamble. To inflate is to invite attention, to draw eyes. To bet that the display alone will be enough to avoid becoming a meal. It is a desperate form of theater, a last-second bluff, backed by some of the most extreme biochemistry in the animal kingdom. In the end, the pufferfish survives, not because it dominates its environment, but because it understands its limitations and has adapted a defense that trades speed for surprise and strength for illusion. It is not a hunter. It is not fast. It is not armored in the conventional sense, but it is unforgettable. Floating once more over the reef, shrunk back to its original form, the pufferfish swims away, not with pride, but with a practiced caution. It will not win many battles, it will not outrun many threats, but it has mastered an art better than most creatures in the sea, the art of making its predators think twice. And in a world where hesitation can mean survival, that is more than enough. Far from the noise and pressure of the surface world, beneath the roar of the waves and the sway of the tides, there exists a stillness that is not motionlessness, but constant calculation. A place where the lines between predator and prey illusion and truth camouflage and performance are perpetually blurred. In this underwater realm, from sunlit reefs to dark continental slopes, evolution has written its strangest and most wonderful rules. This is a battlefield governed not just by teeth and claws, but by deception, toxin, pressure, light, and time. And here, the warriors of the ocean do not always look like warriors. Take, for example, the octopus. A predator made not of muscle and armor, but of tissue and a brilliant mind. It glides through crevices barely wider than a coin, fades into rock, with skin that changes in real time, and outsmarts crabs by unscrewing lids, mimicking fish, and walking on two legs. It hunts with suction, thinks with its arms, and escapes not by speed, but by becoming something entirely different. It is a shapeshifter, a soft-bodied creature in a world of biting and crushing. And yet it thrives. A few feet away, the lionfish glides through a coral corridor like a feathered ghost. Its venomous spines flare outward, slow and elegant, inviting the curiosity of the reckless. It does not chase, it does not fight openly. It hovers herds and ambushes, swallowing prey whole with a snap of vacuum force. It is a creature that wears beauty as armor, blending menace with grace. In the Indo-Pacific, it is part of the rhythm of the ecosystem. In the Atlantic, it is an invading emperor conquering while encountering no resistance whatsoever. And then there is the sea cucumber, perhaps the ocean's most counterintuitive survivor. It moves by inches, eats sediment, has no jaws or teeth, and yet when attacked, it becomes one of the most grotesque defenders of all. It expels its own intestines into the face of its attacker. Sticky, toxic, and shocking. This act of voluntary evisceration is as much a sacrifice as it is a master strategy. The predator backs off. The cucumber crawls away half-gutted and then regenerates what it lost, as if shrugging off the cost of war. Further down the slope, a cuttlefish hovers near the sand, its body a canvas of living, pulsating color. With waves of pigment, it disorients the shrimp. With an eye that sees polarized light, not color, it finds contrast where others see blurriness. It poses as the seafloor, then flashes a hypnotic wave of light. The shrimp freezes and then disappears into the arms of the cuttlefish. Here, the cuttlefish does not kill with brute force, it kills with illusion. Its skin does not just hide it, it lies on its behalf. Deeper still, where visibility dims and the water thickens with pressure, the sea snake slithers along a coral shelf. Its movement is elegant, serpentine, and controlled. It does not roar or attack with theatrics. It tastes the water. It waits. When it finds a juvenile fish hiding in the crevice, it strikes once. There is no chase, there is no struggle. The venom floods the prey's system, shutting down the nerves before the brain can register the danger. In seconds, the fish goes limp and the snake returns to swallow it. Its body is smooth, its breathing slow, its venom, one of the most efficient chemical weapons known to biology. Closer to the surface, a dolphin breaks the silence, not with a sound, but with sound itself. It emits clicks that ripple through the water like radar bouncing off fish rocks and reefs. It hears shapes, it feels distances. It doesn't just detect prey, it builds a mental map of its exact position and speed. This biosonar is a precision weapon, a form of vision more effective than sight itself in the murky depths. When it attacks, it does so in pods, coordinated, timed, and tactical. The ocean's most beloved animal is also one of its most strategic killers. In the wreckage of a sunken barge, spider crabs crawl forward. Long-limbed and deliberate, they do not pounce. They do not run. They wait for decay, for weakness, for the moment when flesh softens and resistance ends. They are efficient scavengers, stripping shells and skeletons until the wreck is cleaner than any reef. And when the season changes, they gather by the thousands, a migration not of flight, but of molting and mystery. Their strategy of war is time and numbers. Somewhere nearby, a pufferfish drifts lazily over the sand. It seems oblivious, even comical, until the shadow of a predator looms. Then, in a sudden inhalation, it becomes something completely different. A spine-lined balloon backed by a toxin deadlier than cyanide. The transformation is absurd. It is also brilliant. The predator backs away, the fish deflates, and survival continues, not because the pufferfish is fast or aggressive, but because it bluffed correctly. It bet everything on fear and won. Each of these creatures wages a war that the rest of the animal kingdom would barely recognize. Some carry entire weapon systems inside their skin. Some manipulate light and shadow like magicians. Others sacrifice organs, wield chemical grenades, and use distraction instead of speed. What unites them is not power but originality. Survival here is not about being the strongest. It is about being the strangest, the best, adapted to an environment where every predator is also a potential prey, and where every strategy must evolve or disappear. Throughout the vast marine world, evolution has written 1,000 stories of conflict. Each one different, each one absurd in its own way. There are crabs that dress in living camouflage. Fish that mimic leaves to hide in open waters. And creatures like the mantis shrimp, whose punch shatters shells and whose eyes see colors we cannot even name. There are jellyfish that drift with tentacles feet long, their stings laced with neurotoxins, and sharks that navigate with electroreception, feeling heartbeats hidden beneath the sand. There are organisms that freeze during drought, remain dormant for decades, and then return as if time were just another predator to outsmart. What binds them all together is the ocean itself. A domain that never sleeps, that never stops pressing from all directions, and that never forgives a strategy that becomes lazy or slow. It demands creativity. It rewards risk. And it nurtures the kind of biological innovation that sometimes defies logic. Here in the wild depths, war does not always look like combat. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like softness, slowness, surrender, until you realize that the creature is still alive and its predator is not. The weapons may be invisible, the tactics may be absurd, but every adaptation has been tested by time, sharpened by loss, and passed down not by choice but by necessity. This is the underwater arms race. A realm where weirdness is wisdom, where defense and offense often wear the same skin, and where the strangest creatures are often the ones that win. In this world, there is no mercy for the predictable, only room for the truly innovative.